Welcome, brave souls, to another chilling tale from the Nightmare Maestro. Tonight, we delve into the treacherous world of late-night food deliveries, where a sinister impersonator lurks in the shadows. What dark intentions lie behind this deception? Brace yourselves for a story that will make you think twice before opening your door to a stranger in the night. The relentless rain hammered against the windshield of James's weathered sedan, transforming the bustling downtown streets into a shimmering labyrinth of neon reflections. As an experienced Uber Eats driver, James had grown accustomed to the frenetic energy of nighttime deliveries, but something about this evening felt off. The air hung heavy with an inexplicable tension, setting his nerves on edge. James's phone buzzed incessantly, a cacophony of incoming orders from hungry customers seeking refuge from the downpour. He navigated through the sea of headlights, squinting to make out the street signs through the watery haze. The rhythmic swish of windshield wipers provided an eerie soundtrack to his journey. Pulling up to a towering apartment complex, James grabbed the paper bag containing his latest delivery. As he stepped out into the deluge, a chill ran down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold rain seeping through his jacket. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, unseen eyes boring into him from the shadows between parked cars. Shaking off his unease, James buzzed the apartment number. A crackly voice answered, laced with confusion. "Uber Eats, but I already received my order 20 minutes ago." James's stomach dropped. This was the third time tonight a customer claimed their food had already been delivered. Something was very wrong. As James trudged back to his car, the weight of realization settled over him like a suffocating blanket. Someone was intercepting his deliveries, posing as an Uber Eats driver. But why? And more importantly, who would be brazen enough to attempt such a scheme? Across town, a figure clad in a replica Uber Eats uniform slipped into the lobby of a sleek office building, a thermal bag clutched tightly in their gloved hands. The impersonator moved with practiced ease, blending seamlessly into the late-night bustle of security guards and cleaning staff. The elevator ascended silently, each floor ticking by like the steady beat of a metronome. The impersonator's breath quickened beneath the face mask, a mixture of anticipation and adrenaline coursing through their veins. As the doors slid open on the 17th floor, they stepped out into the hushed corridor of a high-powered law firm. A young associate burning the midnight oil buzzed them in, barely glancing up from a stack of documents as the impersonator placed the delivery on a nearby desk. Little did the lawyer know that hidden among the containers of pad thai and spring rolls was a sophisticated listening device, ready to capture every whispered conversation and confidential phone call. The impersonator's eyes gleamed with triumph behind the non-prescription glasses that completed their disguise. This was almost too easy. In a world where convenience reigned supreme, people had become complacent, willingly opening their homes and offices to strangers bearing food. It was the perfect cover for more nefarious activities. As they exited the building, melting once again into the rainy night, the impersonator allowed themselves a small smile. James, the real Uber Eats driver, was starting to catch on. But by the time he pieced it all together, it would be far too late. James's fingers flew across his phone screen, scrolling through his delivery history with growing alarm. The pattern was undeniable, a cluster of undelivered orders, all within a specific downtown area. His mind raced, connecting the dots between confused customers and the gnawing sense of wrongness that had plagued him all night. He pulled into an empty parking lot, engine idling as rain drummed a staccato beat on the roof. The glow of his dashboard clock read 11:47 p.m. James knew he should call it a night, report the irregularities to Uber Eats support, and let them handle it. But a nagging voice in the back of his mind whispered that by morning, it might be too late. Taking a deep breath, James made a decision. He would stake out the area, try to catch a glimpse of this mysterious impersonator. It was reckless, potentially dangerous, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister than simple theft was at play. As James maneuvered back onto the slick streets, his headlights illuminated a figure in an Uber Eats jacket ducking into an alleyway. His heart raced. Could it be that easy? He pulled over, hesitating for a moment before stepping out into the downpour. The alley loomed before him, a dark maw swallowing the distant city lights. James inched forward, every sense on high alert. The sound of a door slamming echoed off the brick walls, followed by hurried footsteps. He quickened his pace, rounding a corner just in time to see a shadowy figure disappearing through a service entrance. The sign above the door read, "Centennial Tower Restricted Access." What business did a food delivery driver have entering a high-security office building through the back door? James's suspicions crystallized into certainty. He had stumbled onto something big, something dangerous, and now he had a decision to make: walk away and pretend he saw nothing, or dive deeper into the rabbit hole. Inside Centennial Tower, the impersonator moved with silent efficiency through the deserted hallways. Their thermal bag now contained a different kind of payload, a collection of tiny, state-of-the-art surveillance devices. With practiced ease, they slipped into office after office, planting bugs in potted plants, behind picture frames and beneath desks. The tower housed a veritable goldmine of valuable information: law firms, financial institutions, and tech startups, all ripe for the picking. The impersonator's clients would pay handsomely for insider trading tips, confidential legal strategies, and proprietary software designs. And who would ever suspect that their late-night snack craving had opened the door to such a massive security breach? As they worked, the impersonator's mind drifted to James, the persistent Uber Eats driver who was starting to ask too many questions. A frown creased their brow beneath the face mask. James was becoming a liability, one that would need to be dealt with sooner rather than later. Suddenly, a noise from the hallway froze the impersonator in place. The beam of a flashlight swept across the frosted glass of the office door. Security guard. The impersonator's heart pounded as they silently slid beneath a desk, praying the thermal bag was fully concealed. The door creaked open, and heavy footsteps entered the room. An eternity seemed to pass as the guard's shoes came to rest mere inches from the impersonator's hiding spot. A radio crackled to life, filling the silence with static and a garbled voice. All clear on the 32nd floor, heading down to check the lobby. The footsteps receded, and the door clicked shut. The impersonator released a shaky breath, knowing how close they had come to discovery. It was time to wrap things up and disappear into the night. But first, they had some unfinished business with a certain nosy delivery driver. James huddled in the shadow of a dumpster, rain plastering his hair to his forehead as he kept his eyes fixed on the service entrance. An hour had crawled by with no sign of the mysterious figure emerging from Centennial Tower. Doubt began to creep in. Had he imagined it all? Was he chasing shadows while neglecting his actual job? Just as he was about to admit defeat and call it a night, the door swung open. James's breath caught in his throat as he watched the impersonator step out into the alley, thermal bag slung casually over one shoulder. In the harsh glow of the security light, James caught his first clear glimpse of the person who had been wreaking havoc on his deliveries. The resemblance was uncanny: same build, same uniform, even the same style of glasses James himself wore. It was like looking into a warped mirror, a doppelganger plucked from his nightmares. Before he could process the implications, the impersonator's head snapped in his direction. Their eyes locked for a fraction of a second, a jolt of recognition passing between them. Then the chase was on. The impersonator took off down the alley, feet splashing through puddles as they ran. James scrambled after them, his heart pounding in his ears. They burst out onto the main street, weaving through late-night pedestrians and startled food delivery cyclists. James's lungs burned as he struggled to keep pace, watching helplessly as the distance between them grew. The impersonator darted across the street, narrowly avoiding a taxi that screeched to a halt with a blaring horn. James followed, only to find himself face to face with the blinding headlights of an oncoming bus. He threw himself backward, landing hard on the wet pavement as the bus roared past. By the time he regained his feet, the impersonator had vanished into the labyrinth of rain-slicked streets. Panting and soaked to the bone, James leaned against a storefront, mind reeling. He had seen too much, gotten too close, and now the impersonator knew he was onto them. As the adrenaline faded, a chilling realization set in. He was no longer the hunter, but the hunted. James's apartment felt like a prison, the walls closing in as he paced restlessly. Sleep eluded him, his mind a whirlwind of theories and half-formed plans. The impersonator's face haunted him, so similar to his own, yet twisted with malice. He knew he should go to the police, but what evidence did he have beyond his own frantic ramblings? A notification chimed on his phone, jolting him from his thoughts. A new Uber Eats order had come in, the delivery address eerily close to Centennial Tower. James's pulse quickened. This had to be a trap, the impersonator drawing him out. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore it, to stay safe within the confines of his apartment. But James knew he couldn't hide forever. If he wanted answers, he would have to face this head-on. With trembling hands, he accepted the order, a plan forming in his mind. He wouldn't be walking into this blindly. The streets were quieter now, the rain reduced to a fine mist that clung to everything it touched. James parked a block away from the delivery address, a nondescript apartment building that loomed ominously in the pre-dawn gloom. He left his phone in the car, a precaution in case things went sideways. As he approached the building, a figure emerged from the shadows. The impersonator stood before him, thermal bag in hand, a mirror image save for the cold calculation in their eyes. "I was wondering when you'd catch up," the impersonator said, voice muffled behind their mask. "You're more persistent than I gave you credit for, James." James's fists clenched at his sides. "Who are you? What's this all about?" The impersonator chuckled, the sound sending chills down James's spine. "You really have no idea, do you? How perfect we are for this job. Invisible, interchangeable, granted access to the most secure buildings in the city." They gestured to the thermal bag. This is the key to a goldmine of corporate secrets, political scandals, blackmail material. And the best part? No one ever suspects the food delivery guy." James took a step back, mind reeling. "You're insane. I'm going to the police." "Are you?" the impersonator asked, reaching into their jacket. "Because I don't think you'll be going anywhere." Time seemed to slow as James watched the impersonator's hand emerge from their jacket, fingers wrapped around the grip of a sleek handgun. In that moment, James realized how truly out of his depth he was. This wasn't some petty thief or prankster, this was something far more dangerous. But as the impersonator leveled the gun at James's chest, a new sound cut through the tension, the wail of approaching sirens. Confusion flashed across the impersonator's face, quickly replaced by fury. "What did you do?" they snarled, taking a menacing step forward. James allowed himself a small, grim smile. "I may not have evidence, but I'm not completely stupid. I called in an anonymous tip about suspicious activity at this address before I left my apartment. Looks like the cavalry's arriving right on time." The impersonator's eyes darted frantically between James and the street, where red and blue lights now illuminated the misty air. In that moment of indecision, James saw his chance. He lunged forward, tackling the impersonator to the ground. They grappled on the wet pavement, the gun skittering away into a storm drain. James struggled to pin down his opponent, their rain-slicked clothes making it difficult to maintain a grip. The impersonator fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, landing a solid punch to James's jaw that sent stars exploding across his vision. As they rolled across the sidewalk, James's hand found the strap of the thermal bag. With a burst of strength, he swung it in a wide arc, connecting solidly with the impersonator's head. The force of the blow sent the mask and glasses flying. James scrambled backward, finally getting a clear look at his attacker's face. His blood ran cold. The features were familiar, but not because they mirrored his own. He recognized this face from a missing persons flyer he had seen months ago, his own brother, long estranged and presumed dead. "Tommy?" James gasped, shock temporarily overriding everything else. The impersonator Tommy froze, a myriad of emotions flickering across his face. "You weren't supposed to find out," he whispered, voice raw. "Not like this." Before James could respond, a spotlight bathed them in harsh white light. Police officers swarmed the scene, shouting commands that barely registered through the roaring in James's ears. As he watched his brother being handcuffed and led away, James felt as though he were trapped in some surreal nightmare. In the days that followed, the full scope of Tommy's operation came to light. Corporate espionage, blackmail, identity theft, a tangled web with tendrils reaching into the highest echelons of power. James found himself hailed as a hero, the Uber Eats driver who had cracked the case. But as he sat in his apartment, staring at the bubbles slowly rising in a glass of cheap beer, James felt anything but heroic. He had set out to solve a mystery, and instead had unearthed long-buried family secrets and pain. The impersonator had been unmasked, but the face beneath was one that would haunt James's dreams for years to come. In the end, James realized the greatest horrors aren't always found in the shadows or behind masks. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, wearing the faces of those we once loved. Subscribe for more chilling tales from the Nightmare Maestro.